There it is, the noise from carrying down. I'm going to just be pulling up my details as we go here, but welcome back to another edition of the Being Immortals podcast. We're going to be talking about rules for life.
Yes.
Rules for life. Now, why are we going to be talking about rules for life? Well, I've just recently
read a book.
I've read a book.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the speed of the man. So, 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. I recently read it. By recent, it's like half a month ago now. Did a book review on as well, so if you want to go check that out, that's available. Go check it.
Check it. It's over here somewhere.
Well, it'll be there, and I just want to call out as well. I will call out a couple of times. We're splitting up that channel on YouTube specifically.
Yes,
So just to be clear, for people at home, you're playing with us, playing along. We've done this on the audio already.
Yep.
But we're just going to do this now on the video channel.
Yep.
So reasons why? Give us the reasons.
So Mere Mortals book reviews. Basically, all of our podcast episodes are just getting drowned out. They're not... people are not there to see them. They see the book reviews. So it's like, all right, well, if you want the book reviews, we'll have that channel. And then, new channel for here. Still a couple of things to be decided about whether we'll transfer over all of the other stuff. I'm leaning towards no after thinking about it.
Okay.
But that's another conversation.
Good. Okay. All right. Now, the actual stuff I want to talk to you today, which is I want to just boil it down to rules for life. So, I mean, an absolute quick little summary of 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson's book. It's basically like I know it's hard to guess it, but there's 12 rules, and then he goes into all the detail.
Damn.
Now, I've talked about it before, but some of them resonated with me, some of them didn't. Some of them I was like, okay, I've got some questions around it. But what I've done is I just wanted to kind of go through them with you today, because you've also read that book and you've listened to Jordan Peterson for quite a while.
So I've actually got some notes here of...
just some notes. Mate, you got more notes than me.
Yeah. Well, so these were back in the day before I was doing book reviews on the channel.
Yeah.
So I took, detailed book review notes for myself. So
good. Okay. All right. So we're well prepared for today.
I've got a bunch. Yeah.
So basically, look, what I want to do is I want to go through the 12 rules basically with you. I've got a couple of questions in each one that I think we're going to delve deep into. And that's basically it. I reckon that's going to last us quite a long time, this conversation.
Fair amount of time.
I want to start it off, though, with this particular... I've mentioned in the book review. I just want to talk to you a little bit about this. So this Melody Reed, I found this little comment about the 12 Rules for Life. And I don't know if you had read it before, because everyone's like, oh, Jordan Peterson, very extreme right-wing. He's all about the patriarchy and etc. Like, you can read it in different ways. So she wrote it in, if you peel back the verbiage, the cerebral preening, you are left with a hardline self-help manual or self-reliance, good behavior, self-betterment, and individualism that probably reflects Peterson's childhood in rural Canada in the 1960s. Before we actually dive into the rules themselves, how often do you find that knowing who the individual is who wrote the book or whatever their views is, does it skew at all when you actually read their books? Because when I read this, I almost thought, I never do this. No, I never read a book and I'm skewed by the person who's written it. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing.
Yeah. I tend to try not. So like, for example, in this one here, I've got John Keats selected poems. So I read all the poems without reading the introduction first. And I usually try and do this unless it's a really particular one. Actually, now that I'm thinking, I might have read the intro for this because I did want... poetry is a little bit different. But in general... I don't read the intro because I'd rather get it firsthand, my own impression, and then read more about it afterwards. So I tend not to, but I will go afterwards, and I think that can be illuminating in understanding some of the stuff. So, for example, if you read The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, which is all about taking, I think he took, it wasn't LSD, but it was something like LSD. You're going to read that book, you read it and you go like, okay, well, that makes absolutely no sense. But then you need to understand like, oh, he was experimenting with LSD.
Yeah, okay, the context
he was
behind
in this
it.
sort of, there was this climate back in the America in, 1960s when all this was, new experimentation, free love, all that stuff was going on. So I do it retro, like afterwards.
Yeah, and you were saying this, which I think is actually a better thing because you can read the content for the content, so you can pull out what you care.
It's not like tainted. If you looked up, just typed in Jordan Peterson, and as you mentioned,
you're going to be tainted by whatever way you view it.
Controversial in whatever way he is. You'll depending on your personal Google searches, you'll come up with like extreme right wing or extreme left wing or controversial author in the middle, and it's like, whoa, shit.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I posted this on LinkedIn myself, and someone actually commented saying, appreciate the review of that, and that's someone who has read the book. Because you'll often find people being like, like I've only heard him talk on a news article or something like that, and being like, oh no, terrible book, must be all about this, and this is what it, you insinuate what it might be. But if you just read it without that and just kind of peel back and find the learnings, then you can reflect back and go, oh, okay, well, that's where he was coming from in this regard.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Yeah, if you get tainted by the person, I feel like, okay, you're losing out on the context.
Yeah, in keeping with mere mortal tradition, I got a definition for what a rule is.
Oh, so, okay, good.
It's a guideline or principle that provides direction to action or behavior. So, and this sort of, it was hard to, differentiate between law and rule, because they're sort of like saying, oh, this is this thing, this is that. But I think that sort of provides a good context for the book, which is, he's not saying do this or do that. These are sort of his guidelines or directions or principles that he uses in his life to direct himself, and suggests this is probably going to be good for you as a general. And considering he's sold however many copies and is
not sure actually.
It says more than 4
million.
million.
It says the multi-million copy bestseller, so it must be multi-million.
When I was doing the front covers of the book, it used to say like more than 4 million sold.
Okay.
So it's whatever, however many. Other people seem to enjoy it as well. So
some people, exactly. Now, obviously, I like that definition of rules. Just rules in general, right? So 12 rules for life. I don't know if you want to call it 24 rules. He's got another set of 12 rules come up. I think you did mention this, that this all began from Jordan posting something on Quora.
Yeah.
48 rules.
Yeah, so
like that.
So I think like it was like the most basic bitch question ever on Quora, which was like, what should one do in life? Like, what should I do with my life?
And it was like Jordan just replied with 48.
42 rules he wrote down. And I'm not sure he gave much more context than just
basically the titles of these things.
title of what it was, or like a very, very small description afterwards.
So before we actually dive into those rules, the 12 rules for life, and talk through them, rules in general, do you think they're handy to have in life? Would you call them something different? Do you call them something different in your life?
Rules for life. Well, that's probably a bit strong.
I felt that too. I thought I wouldn't call. So I'll go with mine. I don't have rules for life. I have maxims for life. So I like maxims, and I pulled out the definition. It's a concise expression of a fundamental moral rule or principle, etc., etc.
Yeah, so it's like an easier version of a rule. Like
it's just like it's expressing the fundamental sort of core being of your views, your ideas. Not so much like you have to do this. It's there's the agreement I have with myself, but you might venture past that and then realize it and be okay.
Yeah. I would say I'm probably not even old enough. Like I almost think I'd need an extra 20 years of living to really be like, okay, these couple of things, like just do not break these, because this always ends up bad. Like I'm starting to see patterns of like, if I do this certain thing wrong, this tends to happen, like these after effects, but it's not set in stone, any of this stuff yet. So,
yes. Yep. No, agreed.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd call it something similar to what you say, like a maxim or a principle or a guideline, but not a
rule.
Not
like I would never want to be talking to someone and say, oh, you're not following rule. Don't kick children's heads in when you're playing basketball with them. I recommend it. It's a guideline. don't do it. No, but I just think
that little shit the other day.
Rule to me seems too close to law, and then almost feels like a constraint to life. You say this is a rule, then you feel like, oh, what am I missing out on the other side?
Yeah.
So, So for me, it's a maxim. I don't know for you. I don't know if you have anything currently, you've summarized it, but that's what it is. Yeah. Okay, so into the rules themselves. Let's chat about them. I'll give, obviously, the line that Jordan sort of gives about them. And then just kind of talk through them. So first one, stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yes.
Get the shoulders back, people.
Yeah. So for each of these, I actually just have a quick breakdown of what that chapter is.
Oh, good.
So
okay. Well,
I might even make it easier.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So in essence, of what it said to me at least. So in essence, it says to accept the terrible tragedy that is inherent with life and to put that weight on your shoulders. Face the world with courage and do what you can to make sure you don't make the world needlessly worse.
Good. Now, do you find yourself and another piece in that particular rule was hierarchy. So the whole question about hierarchy and standing up to hierarchy. Do you find yourself caring about where you sit in the hierarchy of that structure?
No, I don't think of it in those terms.
In those terms at all?
What I took out of it was the putting the weight on your shoulders. So like facing the world courageously. So it's not, I thought hierarchy entered some of the other ones more towards the end. But for me, it was an interesting one in the sense that it's a real rough one to start off with. Like telling people right off at the start, hey, everything that has ever happened wrong with you, sort of like, the Jocko Willink extreme
ownership style. Yep.
For me, I find it a bit hard. I like the concept of it, but actually me thinking about it in everyday life, if I had to accept all the bad things going on, accept it as my responsibility, thinking in that way, I would find it too burdensome. Like I think I would go insane if I could actually comprehend it.
If you did the whole way, yeah. Because one of the things that popped into my mind was, how often do you personally, like, remind yourself every day, even just the absolute like stand up straight, put your shoulders back. Maybe like they might go over a couple of days. I don't remember myself for that, and then beyond they'd be like, oh, okay, yes, I should have that good posture. But just the more broad concept of it, of actually, taking on that burden and dealing with it. I think if you did that for absolutely everything, just like the whole premise of extreme ownership, I think it's great in practice up to a point. Beyond it, it's you're playing with the extremes of taking on too much and then just another human. Like, how much can you really take on?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's sort of same with me.
Do you think that is? And so one of the things I want to just summarize with each one of the rules. Do you think it would be a rule that you would be like pro for, or like neutral with it, or against it?
If he skipped this out and put one of the other ones in, I would have been equally okay with it.
Okay.
There's none of these that I really disagree with per se. Like, there's none. I don't think that I was just saying, wow.
Okay, I'll just check in with you to see which one you were like, wow, yes, or like it's like a neutral.
Yeah.
Because for me it was a neutral.
Yeah.
For me it was a neutral. I'm like, well, I get it, but I can see some deficiencies of going to the extremes with it. So cool. Second one, treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. So give me the summary.
So this is an injunction to conceive the greatest good possible for yourself, and this also implies for others, despite your flaws and failings. So it's also to realize that you have the capacity for evil and must consciously act in a way that is morally correct for you.
So my question with you on this one was, do you always do this, or is there an exception to this?
I try. I think this is one of the ones I connected with for me, which was sort of the two-parter. One was, you wouldn't let your your brother, if you saw him sort of going down a bad path, you wouldn't try and aid him in that path. Like if he was starting to drink heavily or something, you wouldn't start buying alcohol for your place so that when he comes around to tempt him. Well, to tempt him or to actively encourage, like, oh, hey, man, what's going on? Have a beer.
Come around swinging with like wine bottles, being like, hey, buddy, what's going on?
So that, you wouldn't do that to your brother, right? So then why would you do that to yourself when you know that you have these problems? Like, I know I have an addiction to sugar. Why would I stock the fridge with sugary stuff? Tempting myself all the time. That's treating myself in an unfair manner. But you don't really look at it that way because it's like, there's one me. How can one me be hurting another me? That sort of thing. So, I connected with this one pretty strongly. And then the capability of evil. I think that's a pretty strong point. Which, some of these chapters, like he goes off on like little tangents
on its own.
So it's not like only about treating yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Like he also mixes in that with mythology and
the theology, Christianity, mixes a few pieces here and there.
Yeah.
With that one, so the treating yourself like someone that you are responsible for helping, do you find that there are some instances where it's just not possible for you to even conceptualize that in terms of like, you wouldn't even see it yourself that you're responsible for doing this? It's until you have somebody else, whether it's a network or a friend or whatever, to actually say like, hey, you're going down the wrong path. Because I think I really agreed with this in its all its principles. But I was going down the practical route and I thought there would be some scenarios where you just don't even know that you're treating yourself differently than how you might be treating others.
Yeah. I would sort of separate that. Like there's the unconsciously or subconsciously doing something bad, which you don't really, like it hasn't entered your consciousness yet. You're trying out cocaine for the first couple of times or something, and like you're just getting real great benefits from it. Like you're active, you're just, getting all these social benefits, all these sort of things, and you're not noticing like the start slide towards the after effects or the bad things. So I would say it's more that part of, I don't know if you've really experienced this. I definitely have sometimes where there's a destructive part of the human psyche, which is something's bad for you, but you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. There's a certain mindset, that certain like, fuck it, I'm cutting. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm eating 1,600 calories. I've only got 2 more weeks to go, but you eat something, if something goes slightly wrong, puts you off your course, you have to go to a function, social eating or whatnot, and you just go, fuck it, I'm just going to splurge.
100%.
That element, I think, is what he's trying to get at there and say like, hey, don't let that
You wouldn't
happen.
say this to another, you wouldn't say this to someone else, but you're letting it, don't let it happen to you in the same sense. Mine my exact example for that is, 2 weeks out of comp, and I know I'm like eating well for 16 weeks and whatnot, and then I'm just like, I'm going to have all you can eat buffet.
Yeah, exactly. Like that decision, like that decision right there is the like Juan saying to himself, fuck you, Juan. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. We're going to eat until you're too full to sleep. Yeah. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Very good. Make friends with people. So there's 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you.
Yes. So a simple rule designed to make sure you don't get stuck with emotional vampires. So neither person benefits from the relationship, even if you're trying to help. You can be naive and harmful, such as trying to save a drowning person who subsequently pulls you under. So both the active people who are out for bad, and then the naive people who are just whatever their personality doesn't mesh with you, and they drag you under through their sort of failings or the path they're going down in life.
So with this rule, the bit that was of interest to me is it's easy to apply such a rule when it's a very new individual. Like you come across someone else, maybe you've met them 1, 2, 3 times.
For sure. Yeah.
Easy, because you can be like, cool, the connection's like, you don't have that deep connection with them, whatever else. I can see it's going down that path, whatever.
Yep.
Have you experienced having to do this though with someone that you've known for a long time and had to make the decision of like, I've been with it, like there was a period of time when it wasn't like that. Now it's the case. Like,
yeah, for sure. So when I first moved to Mackay, definitely, was lonely, didn't know anyone up there. I was 13 hours drive from Brisbane. So, just going to an absolutely new place, didn't know anyone. It's kind of, smallish in a way. There's no ability to really get lost in the crowd, and it was 100,000 people I think at the time, maybe even a little less. And one of the work colleagues like really helped me out. Like he was the one who's saying, hey, let's do something on the weekend, hey, let's do this. And so I connected with him, and I saw not many other people liked him. I saw all these other sort of things, and I would sort of be like forgiving of him being a little bit shit. So like one day, incredibly selfishly, like we're meant to leave work at 5, and he's like, oh, I'm just doing this PowerPoint presentation like for his girlfriend, or it wasn't even for a girlfriend. It was like a chick he was trying to bang. Yeah. And kept me there like an extra hour and a half. That sort of shit, I would sort of let slide. And then it got to the point where I just realized, holy shit, this guy's an absolute asshole. Like, and he's incompetent at his work. 2 major failings. I've talked about him tons of times on this podcast. So having to cut, that actually wasn't that hard. It was sort of slightly gradual in that he'd still be asking me to do things. I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. But that was one where there was a particular moment when I realized like, oh man, I've made a big mistake being friends with this dude, and I'm going to have to, seriously cut that off.
Do something about it. Yeah. I think it obviously much more challenging, and I'm just trying to recall if I do have someone like this, but not really. But if you've known them either from like all the way from school or even, further beyond, and all your chain of like friends and networks are really interconnected, it can become really hard at that point to say like, no, I'm not going to interact with you, because they're going to be appearing in other social places, networks that you're talking to, and people are like, oh, hanging out with this person. Yeah. So I think it can be complex. I don't think in all of this that Jordan's rules were specifically being put forward as like, oh, this is a practical way of doing things. I saw a lot of what Jordan sort of presented as, hey, this is more the principle of what the rule is. The actual application of it is entirely something else. He does have some examples of its application.
Yeah.
I can see that. But this one is the one I thought, oh, you can get real dicey depending on the levels, because you could be robotically easy with this and be like, well, you're being a vampire to me, cut off, go away.
Yeah.
But what happens if that person's like your mum?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's like, cool. Well, do you cut your mum off? And some people will say like, yeah, man, you got to do it. Like, just going to take it. But other people will be like, no, man, you can't do that. Like, that's family. So then it can get a little bit dicey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say this one was a...
This one was a neutral for me.
Yeah,
neutral.
I think it's good advice, but everyone says this. There's no one out there saying be friends with the emotional vampire. Be friends with that person who's a shithead, takes up your time.
Yeah, I just thought it was neutral advice because it's. I understand the advice, but it can be a little bit dangerous on how you apply it to someone. If you told it to someone who was really rational and robotic about some of those decisions, then maybe all of a sudden it's like, oh, you did me wrong once, piss off. What's the level there between someone challenging you to be correct and doing it in a positive way, as opposed to someone challenging you because they just want to see you like fail?
Yeah,
like there's small variations there, and you might just see it superficially and be like, oh, it's the same, go away. So there's some specifics there. 4.
Cool. Yes.
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Yeah.
So for me, this is positive.
Yeah. So pay attention and seek out the truth. Other people can be used for inspiration, but the only true metric of progress is to look in the mirror and ask if you are a better person today than you were yesterday.
So this is a good little easy layup question for you. How do you do this?
Yeah. So, well, I guess it's, for me, it's pretty much all goal setting. Like if I look at Kyron of, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, and the decisions he makes and what he does differently, that's pretty easy. And when you have like as many metrics as we seem to cover for health or fitness or whatever, it's easy to do that a bit. I'd say the harder part is the not to someone who else is today. That's I think if you cut that bit out, the other bit sort of follows from it. So if you cut out the comparison with other people, then you only have yourself to look to, and you only have yesterday and the past. So I would there's a bang on one. I think there's a really
I really like it. I think the challenging aspect is for me, I'm like, the comparing myself to yesterday, because here's the thing about this rule, to not get it wrong. Like, it's don't compare yourself to someone else's today, but to yourself yesterday. I think people will think that they're doing that, but they'll actually do it. They'll compare themselves to yesterday and to someone else's today. You'll do both.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what I would do a lot of the time. I would be like, yesterday, I've improved from yesterday, but this person's made $100,000 or $500 coin. Like, dang, like I've improved, but not that much. So he's got to be careful to go, it's only to yourself, not to everything around you. Again, there's levels, because maybe you do care about if it's sporting and it's like you actually have to come first place, something like that. But I think whatever the quote was from a little while ago, but winners focus on winning, and losers focus on the winners. So there's a little bit of if you start focusing on other people as well, just purely on a physics level, you're just expending energy somewhere else. Like that you could be expending on yourself. That's basically, whether it's mental power, stress, anguish, whatever. So I really enjoy that rule. I would for me, I'd be like, that's what I would consider a rule that I would take on. I'm pretty sure it's in my maxim somewhere in that capability. Maybe not those words, but it's in there somewhere. So I'm like, 100%.
Yeah. And I would just add to this. So I didn't use any social media until I started the podcast with you. And it was only after that was when I started actually comparing myself to other people more. So, not a news flash here that if you start using social media, and which is designed to be looking at other people all the time, it'll sort of fall into your lap without you realizing.
Definitely.
In essence. And that's something that happened to me. So I think I've mostly got past it now. I still have, little moments where I look at someone and I'm like, this is fucking trash. How are they doing so much better than me? But for the most part, it's like, nah,
Hey, this is why it's called Be Immortals Flex. This is not perfection. Perfection achieved to the gods.
Perfection mortals.
No. Fifth one, and this might be short. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Yeah. So he also states to limit the rules and use minimum necessary force. So that one's pretty big. Child needs the freedom to explore, but also the harsh rules to keep the unlimited chaos at bay.
I like the words.
Parents have a duty to act as proxies for the real world.
Yeah. My one with this one is I didn't pull out any particular questions because one, we don't have any children. So
yeah, exactly.
As much as you want to talk about this, like we don't have that direct experience, but I do appreciate the whole trying to get the most out of it with the most effective way possible, just the most efficiency you can. So try to enforce with the minimal amount of energy. So you don't want to. You can make someone close a laptop, but you can go and like pick them up and force their hand to close the laptop, or you could just gently ask them the day before or something else.
Yeah.
Both achieve the same outcome, but one a lot more energy, one less energy.
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah. There's I think just general good parenting advice. I can't add much, but definitely being a parent would be a very interesting experience. I'm excited for it. I'm excited and scared for when it actually happens to me.
Yep. Oh, little baby Karens. Just imagine that. Jeez. Bald by the age of 2. So number 6, set your house in order before you criticize the world.
Yeah.
How do you find yourself reflecting on this after your summary?
Yeah, so also an injunction to accept responsibility for the way things are. So it's like an injunction to stave off the hopelessness of nihilism. I think this one was all about nihilism in essence. So every act you make contributes to the whole, only a tiny bit, but that's all that matters. This also means you get to fix yourself before messing around with large, complicated systems. So he's pretty big on this. You ever hear him? He's like, why you complaining about this? You need to fix yourself first before you can fix the world. Because if you try and fix the world and you're fucked up, you're gonna fuck up the world. Like that's how it happens. So I thought this was a pretty bang on one and definitely good advice. I think this was probably one of the things that people most take from him. I would say this rule, which is a reason against nihilism. I would say, which is what I personally got a lot from him. So
and I think any reason to oppose nihilism is a good one, to be honest.
Yeah. My question would be, when do you know that you're ready to help others? Like at what point do you think, so if you take his advice here, which is set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Well, first of all, I'm sure he'd also say, don't be a perfectionist at some stage. Yeah. So, what level of you getting your shit sorted would then allow you to try and branch out to help others? What do you think would be I
think in a very practical sense with it, I would say at the point where external events and actions don't distinctly affect your internal thoughts. Okay. In the sense of, if you were to go and help out another individual and then that individual chooses to react and act in whatever way, it doesn't then change your aim that you came at it in the first place. So I think that's probably for me the level where you've got your shit in order because the external events are not influencing the way that you're still interacting with it. So that's whether, you're trying to help out a group of people that are going, really badly, and because, maybe in whatever state of life, and then their negativity influences you to be negative and pulls you down, I'd say, okay, you're not ready yet. Yeah. But if it's, you can just clearly differentiate between, okay, that's their emotions and my emotions. That's their actions, that's my actions. That's their reactions, that's my reactions. I'd say, okay, at that practical level, you've got your shit in order. Go help out.
Yeah. I would say something along the lines of, if you can think about yourself for 10 minutes, on your own. You don't have to meditate, just be reflecting on your own life or reflecting on who you are. If you could do that without, judging yourself harshly, without negative thoughts entering your head saying, man, I'm a piece of shit, man, I need to do this, I need to fix all these things. Like, if you can just have some quiet time on your own and just chill out, and you're like, I'm working on my things, but I don't need to work on it right now. I think if you can have that, that's probably the time when it's like, all right, you got a bit of capacity to help others.
Do you say that personally because maybe back in the day you'd have some quiet time and feel in your mind like, oh, dang, I didn't do this properly. Oh, I didn't do that properly.
I would just instantly go into all the things that are wrong with me. You can't talk to women. You're weak and scrawny. Just goes on and on and on and on.
I'm glad you fixed one of them. And I let the listeners figure out which one which one that is. Very good. All right, number 7.
Yes.
Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Yes,
folks.
Yep. So this chapter develops the notion of how the concept of time and work sort of like intermingle. So I would say develop the idea of sacrifice and the delay of gratification. And this, if you want studies saying like delay of gratification, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Fuck yeah, it's a good thing. There's nowhere anywhere
that says it's a bad thing.
Grab as much as you can, as quick as you can. Other than the cryptocurrency scene right now.
Yeah, this is one of the, I'm not gonna say of the 3 or the 4, but one of the top ones I've found.
Yeah, okay,
definitely, because I think I knew about, I understood the concept of it, but then just the way that he was able to describe it as well around meaningful and expediency and some of the descriptions as well.
And sort of like the future. It's like something you can bargain with. That concept I never thought before of. And what is, an ideal better state of you, like you can do better. Yeah. That sort of, or potential, that guy's got potential.
Yeah.
That's such a weird thing when you really think about it, and he breaks it down really nicely.
There's this description that, I don't know if it was Eric Weinstein or someone else made it, but it was moving away from thinking you are this sole individual, but you're a group. And the concept of that is, well, you are an individual if you think about it in the 3 dimensions, but in the 4 dimensions of time movement, you're actually a group. So like a group entity across, actually must be Jordan. It might be Jordan or something. No, I think this might be Jordan when he was talking to Jocko recently. But it was like, okay, well, let's say you're actually a group because you existed, 10 seconds ago now and 10 seconds into the future, and you call yourself that, a group. And so when you sometimes think about the isolation of yourself and other people, well, actually in reality, in all 4 dimensions, you're a group, and that group merges with this other group. So you actually intertwine with this other group. But it made me think a lot about just the the nature of expediency of wanting to achieve something quite quickly for just purely the outcome, not attached to any meaning. So it reflected on me really quickly with a lot of the fitness goals. I think I had some in there that I'll probably not continue into the next year. So I went, I think that was for expediency purpose, for like, okay, I just want to say that I did this, or like to tick it off and I just get it go through as possible. But if I try to narrow it down to the meaning of it, I'm like, it's not really meaningful. There's a lot in there that is like, I want to do the clean and jerk or snatcher. So it's Olympic lifting. Okay, there's meaning in I can find that. Running, cool. Something like push-ups, I'm like, okay, I can't find the true meaning of what I was doing there. So that's an extremely simple example. Yeah. But that whole chapter, I was like, okay, cool. There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah. I liked it, but it wasn't huge for me.
Okay, good. Where are we up to? We're up to number 8. So this was the biggest for me. Tell the truth, or at least don't fucking lie. Actually, don't lie. So my comment here to talk about it is, talk about it. But yeah, give me a summary.
Yeah, so this is a call to do what is right and follow the truth. Deceit, self-inflicted or external, is a force that can drag you down in the long term, almost never ends in ethical results. So eliminate the lies from your life, and if you are unsure of what is true or not, just try and get as far away as possible from what you know to be untrue. So that's the second part of it.
Yeah. So I think the only other person comes close to describing it so well is Sam Harris. But I do think Jordan did an even better job than Sam.
Sam Harris for more info.
There you go. Sam Harris for more info. So Sam's great, but I like Jordan's way of, and the example that he gave with the ex-bikie coming to his door to ask for, but basically trying to sell him stuff so he can go drink more.
Yeah.
Wasn't really like, that was a great practical example to show of, tell the truth or at least don't lie. And sometimes you got to, behind that is, you also have to face whatever comes with it. But in the end, overall, broadly, that's going to be a better outcome than what it might be to just continuously lie. And I don't know if it's in that one that he makes a distinction of it, or he's talked about it elsewhere, where, it's little lies and letting, or at least not telling the truth, that allows things like massive genocide to happen, like things like Mao, and China's killing absolutely heaps of people, the gulags in Russia, Hitler and all the Nazi stuff, like all of that. Not that it's like, I'm not saying it's just directly from lies, but lies has a massive contribution to it.
Huge part of it. Huge part of it. Yeah. If you read any of the books about those times, everyone is in this weird world of, there's truth, but there's an accepted, like the lies become so convoluted, they become truth. People become so convinced of the lies that they are now the truth, and it gets into this very, very weird stage.
Well, I'd step it even further. I think they got to a point where lies became reality and truth just got forgotten. It was like, it was basically that, like in front of you, that the lie is the reality, and to you, you can't even distinguish it anymore. And that's the danger of it, of when the lie becomes a truth as the accepted truth by the social group that has the dominating either power or connection. It'd be like you stepping into North Korea and like everybody there believing something, and you're trying to be like, hey, by the way, guys, there's like another world and you can go and do this. And people just flat out might not believe you because be like, well, how is that possible?
Yeah.
This is my truth.
I think actually just plug for my favorite book here, 1984. I think that gets at the heart of that sort of truth and lies and what they can do, and that feeling that comes from when it's something that's false, but it's so strongly believed to be true that it becomes sort of like a distorted, like dark truth or something like that, like a black truth or white lie and black truth, that sort of things.
I had a interestingly enough, I chat about 1984 yesterday without having actually read any of the book. Just knowing your book review. That was my only basis of talking about 1984 and George Orwell.
Well, it's like
I read the book.
This book, I know a lot about this.
Yes, I know a lot about this book and its themes and my takeaways. Let me tell them to you. Number 9. Assume the person you are listening to knows something you don't.
Yep. So, this was a big one. So, Peterson believes that is through talking, that is actually how we learn to think. That true thinking involves creating multiple personas and having them battle each other to let the stupid or incorrect version of yourself perish. So, this is hard, and this is why talking with others can let other people act as those avatars. So you don't have to create it exactly for yourself. I can sort of create like a Chiron in you through talking, which is, it's a weird concept, but to properly think and talk, you should try and summarize the other person's position, see if they agree with what you've stated. That way both participants will become clearer on what they are actually talking about. So it's sort of the concept of steel manning someone. So straw manning is where you take someone's argument and just say, make it in the stupidest way possible, make it sound retarded. Steel manning's like someone you disagree with, and then strengthening it, making it rock solid, and then still saying, but this is why it's wrong, I guess. Yeah. So I thought, what I write, I find the annoying thing being not able to ask the question. So it needs to be directed information and not a torrent. So there's just speaking with someone. So you might sort of think like, I should be listening to someone more because I want to get that information. But I think there's a difference between that and someone just blurting shit out at you. So I think you also, it needs an active part on you to direct the conversation to useful areas. And if someone's not following that direction,
then you got to cut that off. I saw this in a bit of a neutral light, this particular rule, because there's parts of it, but again, like an earlier rule, it's just there are a lot of practical things where no, you wouldn't want to do that. Sure, you can assume that everyone's going to, and that's like you step in with that assumption, but if that person starts talking about absolute like rubbish, like straight rubbish, let's just talk about, you might not care about how to clean the edges of a gutter specifically, that from people who live in Austin or something. Right.
Or it's just one of those people who's so confident that they think they know how to do everything. You get this rake and you stick it in, you're like doing it in this certain manner, and you got to watch out for the leaches or something. And you're like, there's no leeches in the gutter.
And you'll be like, damn, that's not how I clean my washing machine, but that's all good. Like, dang. With this one, like I agree in principle with the whole, that if you are having a conversation with someone, strong opinions, loosely held. So going at it hard, but just be totally prepared to listen in, and it's more the perception of any conversation has a chance to change your opinion, but your opinion still stands, but just being open to hearing them out and actually listening, as opposed to, where, and I've had this in the past and getting better at it, but you'll be talking to someone and you'll ask them something, or like trying to put your point forward, and then they'll start talking, and probably like 5 seconds into it, you're already preparing in your mind the next thing you're about to say. Like, I can hear you, but I'm already about to say it. It's going into that active listening and like throwing that away and just listening for the listen, and then pausing in and then going, okay, this like either you steel man it or you can retort or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I think this one was probably a real personal one for him, which is I get the feeling he's always said he used to love debating. He joined politics early, so he loves talking. So I would say this one was definitely for him, which was like, hey, I need to shut up a bit and listen to other people.
If you listen to any of his recent stuff now, podcasts that he's been doing, now that he's back at doing podcasts, he's almost as bad as Gary Vee at interrupting.
Really?
Genuinely. I was listening to him talk to Jocko, and he interrupted Jocko like half the time.
That's
like
dangerous.
Jocko was like getting really into it, like, blah, 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 and Jocko was like, yeah, let me tell you about this. And it's like, what? I was like,
probably because he spent like 2 years in Russia just chatting with no one, so he needs to get it off his chest.
Madman. All right, number 10. Be precise in your speech. I like this one. I just like it's not like a massive one, but I was like, okay, yeah, I agree with having the precision of speech. Summary.
Yeah, so a lot of unsolvable problems in life are due to the fact that the problem is not defined properly. So being vague and hazy with your speech means the world for you is not properly defined, and how can you interact with something shapeless and, here's a fun word, amorphic.
Ooh.
You will wander lost and flailing in the muck. Talk with your loved ones in a manner that will help you to solve problems. Be precise. That's what I talk.
Yeah, I don't have too much on this one, to be honest.
Me neither. Other than it's really hard to actually, if one of the things I've learned from this podcast is how often I just repeat stuff from other places, and that other place, how much effort am I actually putting in to verify that's a good place? You, for example.
That's true.
That's like not a reliable informational source.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'll listen to other podcasts and I'll just repeat stuff off of them. And then I'll, just through my own retelling of it, I'm going to butcher it and miss out maybe the most important one, the
caveat, core thing that it was,
and which, makes the whole thing. And then someone else listens to me and they repeat it. And then, it only takes two Chinese whispers, two sources on, and it's so distorted that
it's like missing the comma. When you say time to eat, comma, grandma. If you miss the comma, you're eating grandma.
Time to eat
grandma.
Exactly.
Time to eat grandma.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay one, but for me, I was like,
Rule 11, which is the heavily discussed and where everyone kind of gets in between two lines between Jordan Peterson and whether you love him or hate him. Do not bother children while they are skateboarding. Yeah. And I think it was such a cop-out, this particular name of this rule, because in all essence, you summarize it. But
yeah. So this whole chapter delves into the inner workings of Marxism and postmodernism. This is like his core stuff, what he gets really animated on, really fired up, angry about in some ways. It also talks about the overcompassionate Oedipal mother and how this nurturing side of humanity can cause untold pain and suffering if applied in an incorrect manner without the balance of rigid, uncaring structure. So this is the one where he packs in all all of the biblical stuff, all of his favorite stories about that ancient Sumerian religion with the goddess and carving her up into pieces and all that goes through so much stuff into this one, and then the outcome is about hierarchy or postmodernism or whatever or Marxism, and it's just like fuck.
Look, for me, I don't know. I'd say neutral with it, because there were some bits that I'm like, well, you do have to bother sometimes. You do have to do some things. But the entire premise of that rule, I think he could have broken that down into other things or just put it into separate things. I don't even see that as a rule. I think that was more there's some fundamental psychology that exists there that can be very broad across humans. But to put it as a rule, I thought...
that was definitely a Jordan Petersonism thing. Just something maybe it makes complete sense to him.
Yeah.
When I read it, a lot of the times I was like, in the time, I was like, I sort of get this. And then looking back, it's like, I have no idea what he's talking about here.
To be genuinely honest, I reckon if he had removed that whole chapter, I don't think people would be as angry with him. If he had removed that chapter, I think people would just go through his rules and be like, makes sense. But I think that because he's got theology throughout it, especially Christianity, and that one's just so chock-a-block with it that, yeah, some people I think saw that and went,
Yeah,
no.
I'd say that's the one he feels the most strongly about.
And he does. That's true. That's also true.
If you watch any of his things, like, this is the topic, postmodernism, that sort of stuff, that's the one he gets real fired up about. And I think it's because he's connecting, I'd say he sort of sees that link between it and all the tragedies that occurred.
Yeah.
Of communism and all those sort of bad things that happen. Like he just intertwines those two bang on.
And this is where it helps to understand Jordan as a person. Like, he was incredibly impacted by the Cold War in terms of the mentality of it. Like, he saw that as an absolute thing that, could go really tits up.
Yeah.
And it
Almost
could have.
did.
It almost did. And so he saw that as like, look, we have to prevent this. So that's where he's come from. That. Now, last but maybe least, pet a cat when you encounter one in the street.
Yep. So show some gratitude when you can, be it good times or bad times. Anyone can cruise through the good times, but life has a tendency to rebound twice as hard. So nihilism is a stunningly seductive philosophy, but it has a fatal flaw. It can only make things worse. So when times are bad, try and find the light and persevere. Small act of gratitude for what you still have might save your life, as things could always be worse.
Good. Yeah, I don't have too much. That one's a bit neutral for me. I get it. Basically, this thing is, if you come across a cat in the street, if you're having a bad day, it might make it a little bit of a better day. If you're having a good day, it might make it a great day. It's one of those things, just taking the time out, having some positivity to it.
Yeah.
For me, I get it. It's good, but I wouldn't see it as a rule. I'd say it's a practice.
Yeah. I don't like the actual rule itself, like pet a cat.
Oh, yeah. No.
What if I don't like cats? And if, on the street, man, whenever you see a cat on the street, it's probably got rabies.
Yeah.
So for me, that...
Could have chosen a better one, for sure.
Yeah, I think you could have chosen that better. And then I think...
And if you can actually remember that chapter, he doesn't even talk about cats until right at the end. He actually talks about dogs. He was like, I talked about cats. So it doesn't like... it's not like he's pushing away the people who always talk about dogs and trying to include the cats. I was like, man, could have removed all of this shit.
Yeah. I would have just said, this sort of ties in with some stoic philosophy, I guess. Negative visualization, visualizing what the world could be like if you make the wrong decisions, or if not even that, just the way the world can be, and it could make it worse for you.
Yes.
So yeah, that's. I liked it for the nihilism parts, but in general, I was like,
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, that was obviously the 12 rules
Done.
for life.
12 rules,
that's it. You just follow those rules and you're set. That's success. Might be a mortal moment that I pulled out. This comes from the book as well, so it's a Jordan Peterson one. Courageous and truthful words will render your reality simple, pristine, defined, and habitable.
Ooh, what a mere mortal moment.
It's a great line. It is a great line. It's straight from Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
It's a Jordan Peterson from the book. But I just really enjoyed that. Just especially the part about courageous and truthful words. Cause it's just about, it kind of summed up for me the, tell the truth or at least don't lie. And the ability of just being very direct, and the position that it can lead you, as opposed to leaving you in some maybe terrible positions in the weeks, months, or years to come. So
Good stuff. All right, mine is not all mediums are created equal. So one of the things I learned actually from reading this book was it impressed me in a way, but not in the way that I thought it would. So I thought, man, Jordan Peterson, I've already listened to like hundreds of hours of his. Back in 2017, I was listening to a lot of him.
Yep. A lot of his lectures.
Lectures, podcasts. I think I felt confident at one point saying, like, I've seen just about everything that he's put out on YouTube.
Wow, okay.
Now, obviously not. He's done way more stuff. And even then, he probably had been on other podcasts that I hadn't seen. But I'd found, like, obscure ones with only a couple of thousand views or whatnot. And it was like, oh, shit, yeah. I even watched his bloody Senate hearings and the, like, Canadian lectures. Dive into the comments. Everyone's like... Why am I here? Why is this interesting? So I was like, man, I agree with that.
I agree.
But yeah, so I would say for me, he's way better in talking form.
Oh, yes.
Listening to him talk is much, much more impactful for me than reading the book.
Yeah.
The book, if I read this book without all of the knowledge behind what goes into everything he's trying to say here, I would have been like, man, why is he talking about, not Vishnu, but whatever the hell those gods' names are, cutting them up into pieces. Why is he talking about postmodernism? What the hell is that shit? Like, why do I care about Foucault and all these other people?
Yeah, there's some context that it's good to have beforehand to aid in this book. Plus, if you read the book in Jordan's like voice, it actually he's literally written it like, I swear he like just got a recorder and pulled out the words. Because it's exactly how he actually talks.
For sure.
So that's been 12 rules for life,
Very
folks.
Yes.
Do you agree with the rules? Do you disagree? Do you have others? Do you like rules? Do you not like rules? Are you a breaker of the rules?
Yeah.
Whatever you may be. If you're a breaker of the rules, then I'll recommend to you something. Stop watching YouTube, the podcast for the Mere Mortals book review, which is now called, and be a rule break. Go watch the Mere Mortals podcast.
Yeah.
Go and do the other one. Get cheeky on the Immortals book review. Be like, I'm gonna cheat on you. I'm gonna go over here, but don't tell it.
Don't tell it.
Lie. Or at least
that'll be bad.
Just don't tell the truth. No, folks. Look, if you enjoyed it, as we said at the beginning, we're gonna, by the time this comes out, there's gonna be 2 different channels on YouTube and on the audio, so they'll all be matching up. Obviously, appreciate subscriptions to the new one, so you can help us out.
For sure.
But just feel free to share it with people if you've been talking to friends about it, and they're like, "Where's the video?" Someone messaged me this morning. We're like, "Where's the video?"
Yep.
It's just in a new channel. Still there.
So it's called Mere Mortals Podcast. If you type that into YouTube, you'll find it.
Yep.
And it's also sort of like in the links of the featured channels and stuff like that. A little bit of homework.
Yes.
So for people for number 182, we're going to be talking about how to make the world better really with Dr. Bjorn Lomborg. So it's actually a nice little segue because it was actually a Jordan Peterson podcast, I guess.
Interviewing Bjorn.
I've done a book review of Cool It before, and I'm reading currently this one here called False Alarm. And it's a lot about sort of a little bit about climate change, but also about just charity in general, I guess, and making the world a better place.
Very good. Excellent. I love it. That's it for the Mere Mortals. That's it. Wine out.
Karen out.